You know, we tend to think of the world of plants as, well, pretty quiet. We see them as these passive things that just sit there. But what if I told you that's not the case at all? What if they're having these complex conversations that we're only just now starting to figure out? Today, we're going to tune in and listen to a tomato literally crying for help.
So let's set the scene. We've got a ripe tomato, and on that tomato is a very hungry caterpillar, which is a huge pest for crops. Now look closely. You'll see these electrodes attached to the little stem that connects the fruit to the rest of the plant. Think of it like a tiny EKG for a tomato. These scientists are trying to listen in, to catch a signal that, for the longest time, everyone thought was impossible.
And this gets us right to the core question that drove this whole experiment. What if this fruit, as it's being eaten alive, could send out an SOS to the main plant? It sounds like science fiction, I know, but asking this question meant challenging a scientific belief that was held for a really, really long time. So why was this idea so out there? Well, in the world of plant science, there was this unspoken rule, almost a fruit taboo. It created this huge scientific blind spot, and honestly, it was based on logic that seemed to make perfect sense at the time.
Okay, so on the one hand, you had the old belief. Fruits were seen as nutrient sinks. Their whole job was to just suck up water and sugar from the plant. So sending a message back, that would be like trying to swim up a waterfall. It's completely against the flow. Besides, the whole point of a fruit is to be eaten, right? To spread seeds. But then, on the other hand, these researchers came along with a new question. What about electrical signals? Those can travel on their own, separate from that flow of nutrients. Could a fruit warn the plant that it's being attacked by a bad predator, one that's going to destroy its seeds? And that right there, that was the taboo they decided to break.
And look, as one of the study's authors, Gabriela Niemeyer Reissig, points out, it wasn't just an idea people hadn't thought of. The general thinking was, hey, if nobody's proven this yet, it's probably because it's insanely hard, maybe even impossible to measure. But this team in Brazil, they decided they were going to be the ones to take on that challenge.
So how in the world did they do it? How do you actually eavesdrop on a tomato? Let's walk through the incredibly clever and sensitive setup they built just to hear that tiny, tiny cry for help.
Now, what's really amazing about this setup is the sheer level of control they needed. The whole thing, plant, caterpillar, electrodes, everything, was put inside something called a Faraday cage. This is basically a special box that blocks all outside electrical fields. I'm talking radio waves, your Wi-Fi signal, the buzz from the lights in the ceiling, all of it gets blocked. The signal they were looking for was so faint, so delicate, that any of that outside noise would have just drowned it out completely. They needed total and absolute electrical silence.
The whole process was just so meticulous. They attached the electrodes, sealed the plant inside that Faraday cage to get that perfect silence, and then they introduced the caterpillar. And get this, they specifically chose a lightweight one so it wouldn't physically shake the equipment and create false signals or noise. Once everything was perfectly set, they hit record and just listened for 24 straight hours.
But, just recording all that data was only half the battle. Making any sense of what they recorded? That was a whole different mountain to climb. They weren't just looking for a signal, they were trying to find a specific whisper inside a hurricane of biological noise.
And this right here is the absolute core of the problem. As researcher Tiago Oliveira says, if you just look at the raw data, the electrical signals before and after the caterpillar starts chewing, it looks pretty much the same. To the human eye, it's just a chaotic jumble of electrical spikes and dips. The actual distress signal was completely and totally invisible. And this just shows you the challenge perfectly. Take a look at these plots. The yellow dots are the plant's electrical state during the attack, and the red dots are from before. I mean, can you see a pattern? Can you draw a line to separate the two? No way! It's just a chaotic, overlapping mess of data. This is where the human eye fails. But for a different kind of intelligence, this was a puzzle that could be solved. So, this is the crucial part. The big breakthrough didn't come from a more powerful sensor or a better microscope. It came from turning the whole problem over to a different kind of brain. The researchers took all this chaotic, messy data and fed it to machine learning algorithms. They gave an AI the job that no human could do, find the pattern hidden in all that noise. And the result? It was absolutely stunning. After the AI trained on all that data, it learned to tell the difference between a calm plant and a plant whose fruit was being eaten, with up to 99.7% accuracy. Just let that sink in for a second. It wasn't just random noise. There was a clear, undeniable signal there all along. The tomato was, for all intents and purposes, screaming.
Okay, so the AI proved it. The fruit sends a signal. But that leads to the next huge question. Does the rest of the plant actually hear it? And if it does, what does it do about it? This is what they looked at next, and what they found points to a plant-wide alert system that we never even knew existed.
So the AI's success basically confirmed that the caterpillar attack created a very specific, recognizable pattern within the plant's electrome. That's a scientific word for the total electrical activity of a living thing. The fruit's SOS wasn't just a random blip. It was a clear message that changed the entire electrical signature of the plant.
And right here, this is the smoking gun. This is the proof that the rest of the plant absolutely got the message. This chart shows the levels of hydrogen peroxide. It's a key molecule that plants use for defense. Now look at the leaves, which are far, far away from the fruit that was being eaten. Just 24 hours after the attack started, the hydrogen peroxide levels shot way up. The plant heard the electrical alarm and started preparing a chemical defense across its entire system.
So what's the big deal? Why does any of this matter? Well, the implications are actually enormous. Just imagine smart sensors in a farmer's field, listening for these electrical distress calls 24/7. They could warn a farmer about a pest problem days before you could even see the damage. That is a total game changer for agriculture. But maybe even more importantly, it completely overturns that old scientific taboo. It proves that fruits aren't just passive sacks of sugar, they are active, communicating parts of the plant, revealing this hidden layer of complexity in a world we thought we had all figured out.
But you know, there was one final, unexpected twist in all of this. The researchers had the AI analyze the before data, the signals from the plants when they were just sitting there totally calm. And with over 90% accuracy, the AI could tell the difference between a plant that had unripe green fruit and one that had ripe red fruit, just from their resting electrical signals alone.
And that just brilliantly sums up the true potential here. We started this journey trying to use AI to find a scream in a storm of noise. And in the process, we found evidence of an entire hidden language. The attack signal was just so loud that we didn't notice the ripening signal, but they were both there. So it leaves us with this incredible, tantalizing question. If plants scream when they're in danger, what other conversations are they having that we just haven't learned how to hear yet?